Good afternoon, everybody. How was your weekend?
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to recap again on oppositional defiance disorder. Remember, I showed you the clip on Stewie and how we have this activity for today. So I'm going to go ahead and recap and have some open discussion about it. And then you guys are going to break into your case study. Okay? What's this case study again? Or CST? Child Study Team. Okay. So what exactly does that entail?
That is basically when all resources from the school has been used up, and we have to find an alternate route to assist a child.
Okay. And you guys all know your defined roles, right? But we'll go into that further. But let's go ahead and recap. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the lights and get us ready. Okay. Again, oppositional defiance disorder and conduct disorder go together, right? Okay. Oppositional defiance disorder is defined as a recurrent pattern of negativism, defiant, disobedient, and hostile behavior toward authority figures. Okay? The child essentially is not breaking laws like conduct disorder, but he or she is just showing the lack of following rules based on authority figures, whether teachers, parents, and so forth. Okay? And the disorder is reflected in behaviors such as frequent temper tantrums, arguing, being defiant, being non-compliant to whatever is being asked of them, and externalizing the blame. They are never wrong. It's always another person or the other party who's involved with them at that moment. Okay? And they like to hold victims, right? They like to victimize people, right? Okay. According to the DSM-4, what's a DSM-4 again? Ro.
It's a book in psychology where they use to, what's that word? Diagnose whether someone has that certain mind disability or problem.
Disorder, yes. Exactly. Remember, as educators, we are not psychologists, but we could see behaviors that may escalate to a certain disorder, correct? And because we would see certain things happening, we probably research to see what exactly this type of behavior could be leading to, okay? So it has to happen within how many months?
6 months.
6 months, correct, okay? So they have to exhibit most of these characteristics. Can somebody name one for me?
Hostile.
Hostile, being hostile. Nicole, what's the next one? You can read out the temper tantrums, okay, good. Deliberately annoying people, right? Okay. Being very touchy or easily annoyed by others, like I can touch you, but you can't touch me. Okay, they're very hands-off. They're very spiteful and vindictive, right? Okay. And some of the symptoms may be caused by distress or impairment in work, like they're not able to accomplish things so that they end up acting out that way, right? For older children that level to conduct disorder, they start breaking laws, and they may not meet the criteria of antisocial personality disorder, okay? Okay. Another big factor in oppositional defiance disorder is parent and child involvement, right? Okay. So problems can involve from patterns of parent-child interactions that are characterized by escalating parent and child demands, escalating negative consequences, where the person who dispenses the most negative consequences wins. There's no sense of authority. I always have to win. Okay, and the problems with winning the battle while losing the war. Can somebody give me an example of what that may mean?
It's like a quick solution versus, or quick fix versus, something that's, instead of really, going right to the source of behavior and correcting it.
Right. So we've been going through this course, which is solving discipline problems. And what's the biggest thing? Discipline is a process.
Yeah.
Correct. We can't just give the child something, a physical item, and compensate for whatever the behavior is. We can't shy them away. We have to make them understand and comprehend that we are supposed to act in a certain way and have certain etiquettes for certain areas, and make sure that we understand how to respect one another and that we function in a social society, not as an individual, right? Okay?
Also consistency.
And consistency, correct. Discipline, and should discipline be punishment? Should we be punishing the child and ridiculing them for whatever they do? Or should we be talking to them through the process, getting to understand their feelings, and empathize and sympathize with them? Yes or no?
Understand their feelings, empathize, sympathize.
Okay. So again, discipline is a process, right? Okay. So, with that being said, we have our activity in place. We've kind of been anticipating doing this activity for the past couple of days and prepping somewhat, right? Mm-hmm. So now we're going to take it into effect. Remember, our student is Michael Jr., age 8, in the 3rd grade. He exhibits traits of ODD, which we had mentioned. What are those traits again?
Hostile.
Hostile.
Disturbs others, argues with authority.
Angry. Amanda? Vindictive. Okay. And our dynamics for him at home is he is in a divorced family setting. Mother is single, father's remarried. And what's that little niche that you guys put in place about father being remarried? He's married to a man. Okay, so let me give a quick clip again of Stewie. I'm just going to briefly go over the video that we had gone through before when I introduced this. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly go to some of the parts where he's acting out, just to remind us. He looks so innocent, doesn't he?
All right then. That's a cool dude, Jay. Did that hurt? That hurt? What the hell? Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, you like that? It feels good?
Okay, that's a little bit too extreme, but we'll continue going forward.
Lewis, Mom, Mommy, Hi.
And sometimes we just have that, right? Where kids could be extremely annoying and we just want them out of our face, right? Okay. So let's go on with our activity. Okay, and let's recap. So I'm going to give you guys some time to get yourselves together and we will conduct our child study team. Okay?
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy that you took some time out of your day to come down here to school. Hi, good morning, Miss Weimers, Mr. Wazowski, and Mr. Wazowski. And today we just wanted to talk a little bit about the reason why we brought you here today is to discuss some of Mike Jr., your son's recent behavior in class. And not just in one specific class, but in all of his classes, or actually not all of his classes. We'll get to them one by one. and then we wanted to discuss like a possible solution for some of his behaviors, okay? I know that we've spoken over the phone before, and I just wanted to make sure that you're comfortable coming down here to school today to talk about or have an open discussion about his behaviors and some possible solutions. Okay, so without further ado, we're just going to go ahead and go around the circle and introduce everyone. So I am Ms. Mendiola, the principal, and I'm in authority.
I'm Miss Kayleen, I'm the instructional coach.
I'm Miss Nicole, I'm the drama teacher.
I'm Miss Charfus, I'm Mike Jr.'s PE teacher.
I'm Miss Talavera, and I'm Mike Jr.'s math teacher.
I'm Miss Alexandra. I'm Mike Jr.'s reading teacher.
I'm Miss Shanae. I'm the social studies teacher.
Hi, I'm Miss Oliverio. I'm the science teacher.
Hi, my name is Miss Amanda Chen, and I'm his art teacher.
And my name is Miss Chua, and I'm the counselor.
Okay. And so now we're just going to go ahead and start with our first subject, PE.
Okay, like I said earlier, my name is Miss Sharice Charfus, and I'm Mike's PE teacher. So Mike is a great leader on the days when he's team captain. He is focused, engaged, and he has fewer anger outbursts. He's cooperative and supportive when he can choose who he wants to work with. He demonstrates grade level achievement of physical skills. He's the fastest runner in his class. He's great at strategic games such as sneak attack and swamp ball. He has high averages for written tests, and he always comes to class. But some of the concerns that I have with Mike Jr. in my class, when he isn't the team captain, he tends to act out and show, sorry.
It's okay, go ahead, you're fine.
So in my class, team captains are chosen at random at the beginning of each class period, and each student's name is on a popsicle stick. And I pull the names out, and the ones that have been drawn are set aside until everyone has had a turn. And on the days that Mike Jr. isn't team captain, he tends to exhibit poor sportsmanship in a number of ways. So he tends to speak without thinking, so he lashes out and says mean and spiteful things to other students and the teacher, such as, I hate being on your team and we're gonna lose because of you. He blames others for his mistakes, such as, you made me drop the ball. He blames others for his behavior, so he'll go up to somebody and say, you put me in a bad mood. He will exhibit a lack of effort when he's working with classmates he doesn't like at the moment and cause delays during activities. He likes to mock and mimic the teacher when I'm giving instructions, so he'll just go, wah, 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 wah. He tends to question rules and authority. He likes to say, you can't tell me what to do, and why do I have to do it that way, and where does it say that in the rules? On occasion, he has pulled my whistle, blew into it, and said that he was in charge now. He can become too aggressive. He tends to touch equipment without permission, and he will use them for activities they're not meant for. This one incident that I had with Mike Jr., the hula hoops were out for an obstacle course, and he picked them up and he threw them as frisbees. And so in my class, the students' grades are based on participation and effort, which makes up 25%, achievement of skills, which is 15%, behavior, conduct, attitude, and sportsmanship, which is 20%, subjective and objective tests, which is 40%. So Mike Jr. is doing exceptionally well in the areas of testing and achievement of skills, but participation and effort, along with behavior and sportsmanship, make up 45% of the students' final grade. And I made the grading scale that way because some students aren't so great at sports, but I feel that it's truly important that they participate and put in their best effort. And as long as I see them try their best, I'll give them the full points. And I strongly encourage teamwork and cooperation. But although Mike Jr. is doing exceptionally well in the academic areas, in this class, his behavioral issues are causing his grade to decline.
Okay, so I just have a few questions. Am I allowed to put those out there?
Oh, Ms. Weimers, you can ask if you have any immediate questions to Ms. Charfus or any of the other teachers. Otherwise, we're gonna go over all the teachers' address all the teachers' concerns, the counselors' concerns, instructional coaches' concerns, and then we're gonna move on to any of my comments, and then we can answer any other questions that you might have. Okay?
So I have a couple questions for you. First off, it sounds like you're running a fairly unsafe environment in this classroom anyway, since apparently equipment is just laying around for him to pick up and use as he's not supposed to be using. So why isn't this tucked away securely? It seems like there's a little bit of chaos going on right now.
So the equipment is only out when it's being used, and none of the other students have a problem with touching the equipment without permission. It's only Mike that I have this issue with. And having Mike Jr. respect the equipment and follow my instructions is one of my biggest concerns right now. Not only because I'm worried about the other students' safety and well-being, but most especially Mike's.
Well, I mean, I honestly find a hard time believing that no third grader touches the equipment besides Mike, but you know, I'll let that slide. However, if he's coming up with new ways to use this equipment, to me, perhaps you should probably look into changing your curriculum. I mean, I know as a teacher that when the students aren't, you know, following along with your lesson, it's probably a result of the fact that they may be bored or they're not challenged enough. So you may want to look into, you know, how you were going around teaching your class and maybe try to make it a little more challenging for him if he's so physically excelling at everything.
Okay, I understand your concern, but Mike Jr. is being challenged in my class, obviously not in the physical or academic aspects, but he is being challenged in learning how to take turns, play fairly with others, respect authorities, classmates, and himself.
Well, I mean, you've mentioned sportsmanship a couple times at this point, so as far as the PE sportsmanship grade goes, can you show me the exact parameters that you lay out for the kids to follow? Because, you know, you can't honestly tell me that each child every single day demonstrates enough sportsmanship in each class to secure a good grade in that section of your grading. And because, you know, I've seen third graders, I know that I find it really highly unlikely that all the children exhibit maximum sportsmanship all the time, and that they don't exhibit the same types of behaviors that you're claiming my son does. So unless you can show me the exact parameters that you tell them to follow every single day, and honestly be able to show me how you monitor them throughout the day to prove this point, I don't necessarily know that this should be a parameter within your grading system.
Okay, so Ms. Weimers, as I said earlier, behavior, conduct, and sportsmanship is 20%, and participation and effort is 25% of the student's final grade. And combined, these areas make up 45% of the student's final grade. Achievement of skills is only 15%, and I made the grading scale this way because different individuals have different abilities. So for example, if you and I agree to do a 1 mile run, and the winner would be based on whoever ran fastest, who do you think would win? To me, you look like you would win because you are taller than me and you look like to be in better physical shape than I am, so I would have to run twice as fast to try to keep up with you. But did I try my best and did I participate? So what more with a class full of third graders with varying physical abilities? The rules for sportsmanship in my class are very simple and everyone can achieve them. So I only ask them to play by the rules, be a team player, keep trash talk to a minimum, win with class, lose gracefully, and respect the rulings of the officials. You're right when you say that other children can exhibit poor sportsmanship, but I only have to tell the other students once. I only have to give them one warning, and that's not the case with Mike Jr.
Okay, so am I to assume that you've only given each child one warning the entire semester, or is it one warning a day? Because are you talking to any of the other parents about their children's unsportsmanlike conduct? Because to me, it really just sounds like there's a lot of control in your classroom.
Well, I give them a 3-point warning system, and if I can't get through them, then I do send notes home to the parents, and I have actually sent a few home to Mike's father, Mr. Wachowski.
Okay, well, I would just like to say that if you're going to be sending it home to his father, he's not really a disciplinarian sort. So, you know, you really need to make sure that you're in contact with me. I would very, very much appreciate it.
Right,
but
I'll make a note of that.
You know, if he's such a good leader, have you talked to him about the fact that just because you're not team captain doesn't mean you're not a leader, and that, you know, because to me it's really important for team sports and for later in life that you teach my child that you can be a leader in other aspects, and I just don't understand if you were teaching him that or not.
Okay, so I have talked to Mike Jr. about this issue on numerous occasions. Every day before we start any activities, I make it a point to remind the class that everyone has their strengths and each member has an important role for their team. And just because the student is not named team captain for the day, it doesn't mean that their ideas and strategies are less valuable. It's up to the students to express their ideas with each other, work out a plan, and to cooperate as a team. As to expecting children to be okay as to taking a second seat to someone when they're good at that position. I wrote team captains every day, not to take away from exceptional students like your son, but to offer support and opportunities for other students who have difficulty with confidence, responsibility, and problem solving. So every student deserves a chance to be a leader and an opportunity for challenges that will allow for growth. And if team captains were not rotated daily, these other students would never voluntarily go for that position.
Okay, so maybe we can, that's fine. You know what, that's fine.
add, Ms. Weimer, is that the reason why we hold Ms. Charfris to that kind of standard is because sportsmanship and that type of conduct, not only with the teacher supervision, but also, like, for example, where there's like when they're playing on the playgrounds with their teammates, that's part of our PBIS at school. So that's the positive behavioral interventions and supports. Okay, I just like to mention that. So after Cherise, Ms. Charfris, we're just going to move on to our social studies teacher. This is Ms. Shinigan.
So my junior has been excelling in academics for social studies. He does very well in geography, such as math activities. He can identify the 3 branches of government, patriotic symbols and landmarks. He can create timelines, maps, and even identify some historical figures that we have covered. Here are some of his works that he did very well in. He loves maps and the 3 branches of government. And he does his homework, which I don't usually give out homework unless they don't finish their classwork. So they get to take it home if they don't finish their classwork. He engages in most of his independent classwork. However, when he chose to calm down at his desk or sit at the reflection area, he chose to sit at the reflection area. And since we didn't have much time left for him to finish his classwork, and he told me he wanted to do a puzzle instead, so I just let him do the puzzle instead. There were no specifics on who to contact, so I notified Dad around 2:15 p.m. that day. And sometimes he likes to bother other classmates. One time I caught him whispering random words to his classmate while they were doing independent work. His classmate got annoyed and couldn't concentrate, so I told him to stop or I'll write him up, and he replied, "Write your stupid self up." And I sent him to the principal's office for disrespect. And I tried calling you that day, but there was no answer, but I left you a voicemail. And then I called Dad after, and he was informed about it. For group work, sometimes he participates in group work, sometimes he doesn't. So for my class, each quarter they sit with 4 different people, and they get to choose who to sit with. So that will be their group for the quarter. And I assign group leaders every week because they usually have group work once a week. And I assign group leaders, so when he's group leader, I noticed he would do the work, but when he's not group leader, he would argue a lot with his classmates. So one time, I assigned them to bring a map to life, like a map diorama project, and he wasn't a group leader at the time. He refused to bring supplies when his classmates suggested he should bring this, and he asked to see the leader's notes and on suggestions and like ideas, because usually that's what the leader does. He takes out notes, and he was looking through the notes, reading it, and he would make comments, "Oh, this is a stupid idea, this is dumb," and then he ended up ripping up the paper, and he blamed the group leader that the group leader was the one that ripped it up. So that day I took away his recess time and let him write how he would feel if somebody did that to his work. But overall, he's learning the content in class. However, he has his moments where he would throw a tantrum or annoy classmates when he doesn't want to do his work or when he doesn't get his way.
Okay, so I'm thinking that part of the issue here might be that you're really inconsistent with the manner in which you handle him. You know, sometimes it seems that you allow him the freedom to sit in the reflection corner, and other times you threaten to write him up, and still other times you send him to the principal rather than using the whole situation as a teachable moment, both for him, yourself, and the other children involved. So maybe if you had a more consistent, fearful manner and measure for dealing with him, he probably would have behaved better. So, you know, you mentioned removing recess. Could we maybe add that in as more of an option to use throughout? Because I feel like if you at home when he has an outburst, as, any young child does, I take away his free time later and require him to clean everything up, and if he's broken something, he does not get it back. I will not replace it for him. And I have a feeling that if, you lay down those laws for him in your class, it might be a little bit better to consider.
Yes, consistent with how I handle his behavior, but I want to see what ways would help better his behavior. Now though, I'm being more consistent and using the taking away recess time and having him reflect more on his behavior.
And also, I would really appreciate if you didn't give him the option to take his schoolwork home. School is for schoolwork, and it's an important life lesson that I would like you to teach my child, that, you need to do things during the allotted time that you give him, and he needs to understand that. You're the teacher, you should be able to stand your ground against a bunch of children, I think. And don't let them run your classroom, which is really what I'm hearing is happening right now.
For the homework situation, all my students seem to finish their homework or classwork on time because they feel that they don't want to bring it for homework, so they try their best to finish before class ends. And I don't give out homework only for long breaks and projects. So I let them bring home unfinished work for homework because when it comes time for the next day, I want everyone to be ready to move on to the next lesson and the new assignments.
Okay. Well, I would really appreciate if you made sure that rather than letting him play puzzles or something that he just felt like doing because he felt like doing his work, that you made sure he actually did his schoolwork during school, because it causes a really big issue for me when he gets home, because he doesn't always want to do that when he gets home, and he should be doing it in school if that's the case. So if you could please insert that into your classroom.
Is that all from social studies?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Karen. So now we'll be moving on to Ms. Larissa Telever, who represents our department.
Hi, so I'm Mike Jr.'s math teacher. In my class, Mike Jr. does well in seat work and on tests. His grade in my class is an 80%. Describe all types of polygons. He does well in solving problems including adding and subtracting, measurements and converting. He can determine the duration of intervals of time in hours and minutes. However, he refuses to get in line when entering the room after recess. He calls me a bitch, then runs back towards the playground. But excuse my terminology.
My son does not know those words, so he's clearly learning it from somewhere else, like possibly at the school. You may want to evaluate what you teach or
Miss Talavera, she's actually mentioned that to me, Miss Weimers, about the bad word that he was using in math class. However, Miss Talavera, what she notified me in turn was that she notified one of the parents, and since you were not the one, it looks like you weren't notified about
wasn't
this.
me. And
Mr.
Did they call you?
Yes, they did call me.
And we handled this how at home? And why did you not tell me?
Because I handled it, and that was the only one time that I got called for it. So.
And he's only called you this once?
Called me at twice.
Okay, well clearly we didn't handle this, but we can have that discussion later.
Anyway.
Okay, that's better.
But I still have to wait for the school aides to bring him back to class. And then during transition, from C work to group work, he lashes out. For lashing out, he would toss the chair and slam the book. And then to help with his outbursts, I've actually added giving 5 minutes warnings before the transition periods. Then he becomes uncooperative with group assignments. When I'm explaining the assignments for group work, he becomes disruptive. He'd sing out loud, talk loudly, and also out of turn. He also would always raise his hand when he refuses to listen, and he would go under. When he refuses to listen, he would go under his desk.
Alright, so, perhaps the reason he's constantly raising his hand, singing and shouting out the answers to all this stuff during the games and the participation in the different group projects going on is because he actually knows the answers. Would you appreciate it if you knew the answer to something and no one called on you, even though you probably knew it and somebody else may or may not? And if he's doing so well in your class, he clearly knows the material. So it sounds to me like you're just discouraging his participation and discouraging him from excelling at a subject that he is good at, and just to give the other children a chance to feel better about their own performance. And frankly, I just don't think it's fair to discourage one child to make the other ones feel better. In the real world, people are encouraged to do their best, and they excel regardless of their abilities. And since school's preparing them for the real world, have you really considered that in their class?
Oh, no, sorry.
Thank you. So have you considered, maybe making sure that you can help the kids that do excel, rather than trying to squash their abilities down just to cater to the other kids?
But I'm just one teacher. He's not my only student. And being in group does actually help him strive and help him in life.
Again, with our school, we focus on the multiple intelligence, and one of the multiple intelligences that we discuss and try to promote in class is the interpersonal learning intelligence. So that just helps, everyone has it, right? So we know that Mike Jr. has it in him to work with other students in the class. However, he's just having a hard time, I guess with the activities to bring it out. And then also, for math class, we also try and focus on, Marzano's classroom instruction that works, and one of the strategies that we put into place at our school is cooperative learning. So there's reasons behind Ms. Talavera's work, as well as everyone's group work here at our school. Okay, moving forward. You're fine.
Thank you guys. I'm so sorry. We're going to have to stop now. I am just astonished at how well you guys have gotten into your roles. I've noticed that you've incorporated the aspect of possibly what I'm going to see under behavioral management plan. I have heard strategies come into place that have been shared in this classroom before. You've been exhibiting great professionalism, an account of Carla's role as a mother. So also her playing that role, despite she's not doing the teacher role, are realistic questions that would come into play that you should be able to answer and give justified reasons for your way of teaching, your type of discipline, and your style as a teacher, and your concern for students. And thus far, I've heard that you guys have been very student-centered, which I really love, and that's what I tried to get out of you in this class. And to ensure that you're able to have rubrics and guidelines and philosophies in place to justify your reasoning as an educator, despite your role. And I have to give credit to you, Aunt, for coming back and constantly regrouping the teachers and identifying a teacher that may not be able to articulate and voice out her opinion well enough and does not like possibly aggression or confrontation, right? And supporting her with valid reasoning for the goal and the strategies that are utilized in your school, okay? Excellent job. So I'm so astonished. I can't wait till we get to the end of this, and overwhelmed with how well you guys have done. So we will do part 2 next class time. Okay. Have a great evening. Drive safely, and I will see you next class. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. We are going to continue our discussion on Mike Jr. Wasowski. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, our principal will not be able to make it in the early part of the meeting, but she will be trickling in later, only because she has to attend to an emergency issue here at the school. I apologize, Ms. Weavers and Mr. Wasowski. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and continue. We left off. We are going to start with science. Science, go ahead.
Okay, so hello everyone. I'm Miss Oliverio and I'm Mike Jr.'s science teacher. So in science class, Mike Jr. works well independently. He turns in completed assignments that meet the requirements. and show genuine interest in what he's learning. However, when doing collaborative work with his peers in experiments and investigations, he becomes unresponsive and uncooperative, and this affects his overall academic performance. My class's parameter of grading is based 60% on individual work, which is composed of tests, homework, and seat work. 40% is the collaborative work done in class. Collaborative work in my classroom is organized as each student gets a role, whether that's the leader, recorder, materials manager, or reporter. Then they rotate roles with every new assignment, and each quarter the groups rotate. In these collaborative groups, I observed that Mike Jr. wants the leader role, and when he does not get that role, he seems to shut himself out and use the bathroom as an excuse to avoid said group work. This has become a behavioral issue. When there is a behavioral issue in my classroom, it starts with a warning to hopefully get themselves back on track. And if it progresses to something concerning, there will be a loss of recess. And if it continues, I'll contact a parent. I have in my records that I contacted Mr. Mike Wazowski Sr. on November 10th, 2016 in the second quarter. Now I hope the incident has been relayed to the two parents and any other parental or significant figure in Mike Jr.'s life.
Okay, so I just have a quick question. Could you please explain to me why there's a 40% group participation grade? Because it seems to discriminate against children that may be a little shy or quiet or find working in groups difficult and distressing. So how is it fair to have such a huge portion of their grade made up of something that they find so difficult? It seems to be setting them up for failure to me. And isn't it your job as a teacher to, maybe make sure to set up the field for success rather than failure on occasion? Because, the grading system seems to be doing the exact opposite, especially when you mentioned that my son knows all the information and seems to be doing really well academically. I don't understand how the 40% grade is, going to be helpful for him.
Okay, so Mike Jr.'s academic intelligence and abilities are greatly appreciated and demonstrated in my classroom. But in order for him to thrive in a social society, which we are all currently living in, we must begin in a social classroom, where I hope he feels safe and secure. There are standards that promote working collaboratively and sharing ideas, such as Common Core 3.1D that states explaining your own ideas, and G2OE standards 3.13 that states demonstrating the ability to work in groups and share ideas. So these are skills that will help Mike Jr.'s development, not just intellectually, but emotionally and socially, skills that will be carried beyond my classroom.
Okay, so my other question is going to be, basically, how do you gauge the participation levels during any group activity? Am I assuming that you monitor each group closely enough to grade them appropriately? Because I really doubt that's likely. And, it would seem...
Can I interrupt?
I suppose.
Maybe I'm not fully aware of what might be the problem here, but these teachers seem to have an idea. You said yourself that our son's having problems even at your house, and if it's happening here and it's happening at my house, shouldn't that be our concern, the problem with our son? I mean, I'm not a professional like these teachers here, but our main concern should be our son.
Thank you for your input, Mr. Wazowski. Did you have something to say?
Carla, I thought you were switching the question.
I mean, that is a fair point. I guess everybody at this table has been having the same types of comments. So could you explain to me how often he takes the bathroom route or has a leadership issue where he does not get to do what he wants to do and it causes some problems? Is this an everyday occurrence? Is this every other time? How often does this happen?
Well, unfortunately, that this does occur often enough that I've noticed it to be a problem, but in my class, it's 1 week individual work, 1 week collaborative work. So there are weeks where Mike Jr. is doing well. And again, in collaborative work, when he does get the leader role, he's great, he's up there, he's doing what he needs to do. But when he gets one of the roles he thinks are smaller, that's when this bathroom issue occurs. And it has occurred enough for me to have to warn him and for him to lose his recess and, as I mentioned, call Mr. Wazowski.
So hi everybody, my name is Miss Amanda Chen and I am Mike's art teacher. Mike Jr. is doing well in class. He shows interest in art by completing his assignments and performing to each standard as per required in each lesson. He excels in individual assignments and is engaged during instructional time. However, he is reluctant to participate in cooperative groups and present his work unless he is given an alternative choice somewhere else in the lesson. One such example would be when one of my assignments, students had to create a family portrait. Although he was reluctant at first, knowing that he had to present his work, which is a part of my grading, with an option to choose his own medium, he showed more willingness to participate and complete the assignment.
Okay, so since there seems to be like a running theme that I'm seeing with Mike, that he is having problems when he is not in leadership positions, can I just ask what kind of group projects you mean? Like, did he have to create the group project as, are they working together to make a project together? Like, are they all contributing ideas to make a structure together, or is it, different people have different jobs at the table to help contribute so that everybody can make their own project? Because, do you think part of the issue could be that he has this idea of what he wants the art project to be, and when he's working with other people, they may or may not agree with him? Is it just, is it something that he can't accomplish his vision of the project by himself in a group?
So, thank you for your concern. With the way my class is structured, they take turns each week. So they do collaborative discussions in order to gain an idea or an understanding of what they want to do, and then they can separate. But on other weeks, and in reference to standards in Common Core, they need to be able to talk and discuss their ideas and therefore move into a group project. So with his behaviors, it just, it kind of switches sometimes. But for the most part, it is, where goes the thought?
I think to help with Ms. Chen, what she's trying to say is there's roles that are created, and each role being created, they have like a leadership role, a writer role, a reader role, or a speaker role. So every child in that group has a specific role, and I think with her, she's trying to say that only on the leadership role that Mike wants to be in, that's when he works well. But if he's put in a role like a writer and he has to write information down, that's when he has a difficulty cooperating with his other group members.
Yes,
Ms. Chen.
So really what I'm hearing is that he's just having a problem when he is not in a leadership position, but you said he was doing well individually. Would you by any chance have any examples of his work?
Oh, yes, I do.
How that may or may not reflect what's going on?
So for this unit assignment, he had to do basically how he views himself in relationship to his family. So some of the work I do have is this. Oops, sorry. So that. And then this one as well. So to you guys. And then this one. And this one seemed to be in particular to you, Ms. Weimers, my apologies.
Thank you. So the last picture is of me. What was the exact situation in which he drew that, may I ask?
I just, for this assignment, I asked him to draw his relationship with his mom.
And that's what he thinks of me. Okay. I mean, I suppose it's because I'm the one that normally lays down the rules in our house, but we're really gonna have to, I guess I'll have to talk to him about that a little more.
Okay. Hi, good afternoon. I'm Miss Alexandra. I'm Mike Jr.'s reading teacher. And in our class, it has been mostly smooth sailing with Mike Jr. He thrives in this class when he's given control of what he can do. He displays empowerment when he has an option to choose what he's reading. During quiet time, I give the students the opportunity to read on their own what story it is they find interesting from the shelf that we have. And in that time, he behaves and uses the time well. However, there are certain issues with Mike Jr. that needs improvement. In this class, I see that Mike Jr. is reading but not comprehending what it is that he's reading. He also has issues reading out loud. He tends to be very withdrawn and reluctant to comply with the task at hand. when I separate the class into groups, he can be dominant and forceful amongst the other students to get what he wants or not do what it is that's being told of them. For example, when he doesn't want to present in front of the class, he pressures one of his classmates to do his job for him. I've tried to talk with him personally and see what the problem is on why he doesn't want to do what I advise. He reacts by walking away and disregarding or not giving any regard to what it is I have to say and doesn't care to do anything. But I am confident that with time and improvement, he can do well.
Okay, so it seems like we really have a bit of an issue going on with his behavior towards a lot of the teachers as well as his classmates. That's really what I'm getting from this. What can we do about this? Because clearly we've seen how he sees me. So I don't really know how to respond here. So.
Okay, so you guys did a really good job with coming up with your arguments and valid discussion relevant to his behavior that demonstrates what? Signs of what?
Oppositional defiance.
Correct. So remember, we are not diagnosing him, but we're identifying traits that are that relate to oppositional defiance disorder. So, what are our treatment options if he was diagnosed with oppositional defiance disorder? Okay, parent-child therapy. Anj, you want to discuss more, because this is like your role with the administrative team to come up with some kind of stepping next solution for what we're going to do for him. So what would be in place? What could you get going?
So like I was saying earlier, we're just going to go over some of the counselor's concerns and the instructional coach's concerns. And then I just wanted to highlight like strengths, right? So the things that he does do like right? And then the things that he needs improvement, kind of like what, like, I don't know, like, not pros and cons, but just like, yes, strengths and then what he needs improvement on. And then from there, I want to create some rules, that all the teachers can follow, and I want to highlight that, the parents, right, we all play a great role in Mike's life, and even though he doesn't know it, he relies heavily on all of us, right? So we need to make sure that we're all working together to send the same message to him that if he does have these behaviors, he's going to have these consequences. Because, for example, if we can't control him now, his behaviors could lead to more serious behaviors in the future. So that's why I would just kind of recommend to the parents. And then from there,
what behaviors would that escalate to? If he was diagnosed with oppositional defiance disorder, he could
really hurt other things like criminal behavior.
So criminal behavior, which is what? Conduct disorder, yes. So we kind of want to end the trend now, and consistency is what's needed with the treatment, right? Ro mentioned therapy for parents and student, plus ensuring that rules are correlated with home and school. And
but we're just going to offer them the treatment?
Offer them the option of being able to probably see a therapist. Because communication seems to be the problem between the two, including their child.
Yeah, maybe say it would be helpful. I've heard it's been helpful if people see that it's together as a unit.
So you need to take a very proactive approach, but not telling them exactly what to do. Okay. And don't ever label. And you guys have been doing very well with that. You've been just really concentrating on the behaviors that are being exhibited, not merely saying that he has oppositional defiance disorder. Okay. Anything else you want to wrap up with?
I just want maybe some ad lib, maybe the teachers be like, oh, maybe we could do, this in my classroom some more.
Okay.
And then Carla and Mike can be like, oh, I think, that's something that we're gonna look into.
Okay, great.
And then the closing remarks, I just want to say thank you all for coming. You all did a great job, and I hope that we can move in the right direction with Mike and then help him get back on track.
Sounds great. Perfectly conducted CSE.
I was gonna say, I think like the teachers that had the easier time with him should probably put in suggestions. You know,
Some of the strategies
why,
that
why they have
that
easier
they
time.
use to.
You know, like, hey, now I give him a choice between doing this or this, and he gets to decide, but it still gets him to do the proper thing.
So basically, the approaches that should be shared, considering that leadership is his thing and having control of the situation somewhat, is providing him the opportunity to where it's like it's his suggestion, similar to Carl Rogers' person fit theory. When I discussed with you guys how to do active talking, right? You need to ensure that you put yourself in the shoes of the individual. You give the suggestions or give the options, knowing that you're trying to gear them to making the right decision. However, it's not you directly telling them, it's being inferenced and it's facilitation. Is it teaching facilitation?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So make sure when you guys give your suggestions, you put it in that, give it in that manner, okay?
Maybe I'll ask like a key question, like what do you guys think, or what key question should I ask?
Probably you could say something to the extent that discussions this morning or whatever times that we had here have been fruitful in the sense that we've discovered that some of the classes, his behavior is not escalated or as high as it is in others. Do any of you have any suggestions? For instance, I believe, and then recap, because you were supposed to be listening. We were supposed to be listening to everybody. So it was reading, art. What other class? Drama. The drama's not here. Right?
Reading and art is the one where he was.
Okay. So reading and art. So like put it out there for them and then see if they would be willing to share.
So I would say like reasons why he does well.
Yours is because you give him choices. Like either way.
That's how I can start it off. Like
So Google or Pinterest something where you give choice boards based on reading right now. Do you have that right now?
No.
So you could like give an example so it's physically shown. And then maybe you guys could also think of an incentive. Don't give tangible objects. Give incentives that are based on improving his behavior. You know, so like for instance, he loves leadership roles. So you do a point system or a behavioral system that allows him to gain an extra day of being a leader. Remember, so we can have that proactive approach to everything. Okay. So that should be what the council should probably bring up, right? So giving him ownership in the sense that he's building up his behavior to do what is right of him. Does that make sense? Okay. You guys are ready? You may begin again. Your discussions.
So now Ms. Wiemers and Mr. Wazowski we're going to just move on a little bit more to our instructional coaches concern as well as our school counselors concern. Okay. Was there someone who wanted to
I can go ahead and go first.
Okay. Thank you, Kim.
Well, as you heard, most of the teachers already expressed that academically he's doing very well. His Ames Web scores are pretty high. There's a few, I have here a few of his scores that you can take a look at for math and reading, and he placed either average or above average nationally. So that's something that you can take a look at. Other than that, we did notice that some of the teachers had difficulties or issues with his behavior And the strategies that some of the teachers use may help him, may not work with him. I have had PLCs, which are professional learning communities, and that's when the teachers and I get together and we talk about either academic issues in class, behavior management in class that maybe I can give my input in. And I did advise the teachers to keep record every time there was an issue that happened with Mike. And them keeping record allowed you to see a pattern, if there was any pattern, to see a pattern on how his behavior was. It also allowed some of the teachers to find strategies that worked with him and that didn't work. So I think before we end here, it would be a good idea for some of the teachers that didn't have such a difficult time with him to share some of their strategies, and maybe we can go forth from there. But those scores are pretty good. I mean, to me, he's average and above average, and that's nationally, not just in our school or only here on Guam. It's everywhere else.
Hello, Ms. Wimers and Mr. Rosowski. I am Ms. Chua, and I am Mike Jr.'s counselor. So Mike Jr. is an intelligent and energetic student when he is engaged in certain engaging activities. But as you have heard, his teachers have brought to my attention their concerns about his behavior in the classroom. And so I had them implement a tally chart where they can record Mike Jr.'s misbehaviors in their classroom daily and weekly. So after a few weeks, I reviewed the tally charts and decided to administer an emotional test to Mike Jr. And this test is called the Social Emotional Assets and Resilience Scales. And one of the components that this test evaluates is his social competence, which encompasses his ability to maintain friendships with peers, engage in effective verbal communication, and feel comfortable around groups of his peers. And as you can see, his results show that he is at high risk.
So what do we do?
So after listening to the teacher's concerns, one of the things that I can recommend is to implement an incentive system in the classroom where the student can earn his way to a leadership role.
Thank you very much, Ms. Chua. So I just want to say that, I've brought Mike Jr. into my classroom. I've spoken with him personally, and I really do believe that he's a bright student. However, I see that we all need to be on the same page in order for him to excel. So in order to do that, what I want to implement is the behavior management plan. Okay, and so some of the things that we can do is we can discuss his strengths, see the areas of which he needs improvement, how we can what we can do to increase the behaviors that needs to be improved on, and then also just set some roles for him. Okay, so what are some of Mike's strengths? He works well independently, and he also works well in leadership roles.
Yes.
Okay, in reading, what are some strategies that you use that help him excel in class?
In my class, I think the reason why he is thriving is because he shows empowerment, and when he has a choice to choose what he's reading or what he wants to do, and I can see that that makes him comfortable in my class.
In art, I also utilize the same strategy she does, in the sense that when he has his choice of mediums to use, then he isn't as reluctant or combative when he does show his behaviors in other classes. That is.
So, for example, what do you think we can do in PE, Ms. Sharpworth, to present micro choices?
So I can go along with the tally system, and if he exhibits good behaviors, he'll get a tally and he can accumulate points, and then at the end of the week we'll see how many points he has. And if he has in the range of like 8 to 10 points by the end of the week, then he can choose which day he wants to be leader for the next week. But we still are going to have to rotate with the other kids just to give everybody else a chance.
Okay, in math, what do you think that we can do to raise, do you think there is anything, Ms. Marissa, we can do to help raise Mike's, sense of sense of just his positive behavior also in general?
I could start giving him more of a leadership role, as in when he comes to class, he can get it ready for each of his classmates to be prepared.
Is there anything for social studies that
I think I will also implement the tally system, just because we do a lot of group projects like every week, so that he can be able to be a group leader more often.
And
Art is done.
yes, our
So is there something that I should be doing at home?
Oh, well. Okay, so maybe 2 variations in teaching strategies, okay? So I want you guys to think of the different learning styles also. So when you say you're just gonna let him have leadership roles, we also need to think about him.
other kids.
Yeah. So you need to make sure that you provide lessons that gives him options in which way he can express himself versus always collaboration or always individual speak out. So like for instance, he's shy standing up in front of everybody and projecting what he has to say. Like he doesn't feel like, at times he doesn't feel like it. Use a magic mic or a megaphone. Change it up. So somebody needs to come in with that too, okay? Or do it in a song, something to that
Maybe we
extent.
can implement the getting along together strategy, where all the teachers, like for let's say for second quarter, third quarter, apply the getting along together strategies, because that helps with roles and tasks that need to be done. And it's very specific and specialized for just that individual.
And this is based on SRA, and that's their
So what it
strategy
is
for collaborative.
it's an actual lesson plan that teaches students roles and expectations and how it should be done. So if the teacher carries that out and has everyone participate and actually do each role, then I think it'll be.
So when we go back on, you can say something to the extent, I noticed we've been focusing a lot on his leadership role. Now maybe also we need to focus on how he needs to understand how to do other roles and make sure that it's clear and really implements that in the classrooms. Maybe we need to refresh him on, okay, so.
Okay, another thing I see is that a lot of us are really focusing on his leadership roles. There is a curriculum, or it's a curriculum from Success for All that we can use. We have it in our school. It's a resource that we're able to use. It's called Getting Along Together. And what that is basically each classroom groups their students, and each table has a specific role and expectation to be conducted by themselves individually, and then they collaborate as a group. So I think if all the teachers are given those materials and that resource, they'll be able to carry out that actual lesson plan maybe in third quarter, and maybe Mike will be able to see and understand more that every person will have roles that they have to do in order for it to be considered a group work. And it'll all take turns and shuffle.
And that they can also.
And you can also take it, you can also use it at home too if you guys would like. And maybe with have roles and expectations at home set for him in place, and if he doesn't follow some of the rules, there should be a consequence, just like us here too.
So we should really be trying to work with you to
Yes.
mimic how
Yes.
it's at school.
And we can give you a set to bring home too, so you can try to do it at home and see how it works out. And then that way, if it's done at home and in school, then we have a good relation, and he's getting used to it, and it'll be second nature to him basically.
Okay, let's say this doesn't work. What other options do we have? Or even if this does work, is there anything that we should be doing otherwise to help him adjust?
Another suggestion that we have, Ms. Weimers, for both of you and for Mike is, and even as the family as a unit, is we can connect you with, we can suggest to you, a therapist that we know that can help you, maybe communicate a little bit better for Mike, between homes, and even set some more specific roles or bring you to agreement. Is that something that you guys are willing to look into?
Yeah.
So, Dr. Green, I can, okay. So, thank you very much, everyone, for coming. I feel like we have just made some great progress and some great, just steps towards getting Mike on the right direction. If there aren't any concerns, I can go ahead and get your contact numbers, or we already have your contact numbers, Ms. Moore and Mr. Mike. But if there's anything that you have, any other concerns, you can go ahead and speak to any of us. Most specifically, me, Ms. Chua, or even Ms. Kellett. Okay, thank you. Have a great day. Thank you.
Okay, great job, guys. This project was a nightmare at first, but after you guys got into it and started sitting in the role, what realities came out of it? And it seemed like you guys became very much more comfortable and you knew what you're going to say and everything came into place. So what do you guys think you got out of all of this?
I think that even if we
You're going to have to leave with an
practice,
exit ticket to tell me
I
what
think
you
even
think.
if we practice a lot, it's a realization that no matter how many practices or how many times we can do this or we've done this, that we'll still be learning every time we do it. Like there's no set, I don't know how you say it, like we cannot expect everything at the same time.
It's
every
not
time
black and white, right?
Yes.
It's very gray.
Like it always
whenever you-
changes, and even though like I can do this many times and I still probably won't feel that comfortable only because it's always different.
Yeah, or
and you
sometimes-
still constantly learn from everything that happens.
Yes.
And there's sometimes where you never know what you're going to say, and this is like a time where, or for me, where you really have to be mindful of every little thing you're saying, because the parent, right, they're kind of on edge, right? They think that, their child's in trouble, or they think that, they did something wrong as a parent, when I think that, like no parent's really perfect and they want to be a little bit defensive. So you kind of need to alleviate that kind of, feeling by making sure that you're not offending them, in any, in a mean way, or, speaking to them correctly, or, with compassion. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So what's the biggest thing? It's always about empathizing and sympathizing with whoever you're dealing with, especially in this profession, right?
Yeah.
That includes this child.
Because, yeah. Oh, no, I was just thinking, like, what if he was, like, a special needs student, like, we'd want to give that kind of same consideration for these kinds of parents, whether or not they have, like, a learning disability or they need behavioral, management.
So basically, there shouldn't be any type of discrimination. Every child should be treated and fairly approached whenever they are dealing with issues, right? Okay.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, like, I think the biggest thing to remember is, like, parents can get really aggressive at, like, coming at you and, like, refusing to see the issue, but I think, like, as a teacher, which I think you guys did a really good job of, like, not verbally trying to slay me, but I think, like, a thing to keep in mind when you're doing these types of things is that you're there for the kid, and the whole purpose is to try to make sure that you are setting this kid up for success. And even though it's really uncomfortable sometimes to have to explain this to the parents and be verbally attacked, that, the whole point of teaching is because you want to inspire kids to go on and do wonderful things in their life, and that, like, in order for this child to succeed, he needs to have help, and that's okay, but you just need to get his parents around to understanding that you're not attacking them, you're just trying to make sure that you're setting them up for success in life.
Awesome.
That's what you want.
Bro?
Oh, for me, what I got from this, especially with a lot of observing, is to, like she mentioned about being verbally late, is like you need, no matter which side you're on, you need to keep a lot of composure, and also to be able to know what to say, especially as a parent. From a parent perspective, you could just, lose your cool and become unprofessional, but she handled it so good. I guess because she's a teacher, she just knew what to attack the teacher with, and the teachers too. Like, you kept most of your composure, and you knew how to react and respond properly to a very scary parent. So that's what I took from it.
So that is one key component in life, is that you always, when you're dealing with people, you have to always think about, what if you are on the flip side? whatever situation it could be. Because you would have to kind of analyze what the reaction is going to be, and you want to make sure that the reaction is not something that you're triggering to escalate the issue, right? And composure is a very good word that you use. It is very critical as a professional that you always keep composure regardless. You have to think of these students and your parents as your consumers. If we were thinking in a business setting, right? And you can relate with me, customer service with the banks. No matter what, you have to keep your composure despite if you're right or wrong.
That's what
because, and these children are your consumers, okay? And these parents. So you must keep your composure, okay? Next, anybody else? Close out. Love to share.
Huge learning process, whole thing.
Kind of scared.
You're scared. Don't be scared.
Well, I think everyone did a great
I
job,
think
like,
it's just a huge
documenting.
eye opener just to really
Yeah, as a teacher.
try to play it
I like
out.
how you said that word documenting. Accountability is key. All of you pretty much exhibited that when you were explaining things in the classroom and how you could rebuttal back to Carla in reference to whatever questions she has. Accountability is key. But remember, accountability, again, empathizing and sympathizing with the student, not accountability to attack the child, but accountability to ensure that the child is doing everything that is needed. So I'm glad that we always made sure we had a positive and a negative to explain when we were dealing with my junior, okay? Because even though there's some negative, we always want to try to make sure that that positive overrides it, because with that positive, we know what we can do better, right? And remember, what I always say, in order for us to learn and have solutions, what must be in place? Conflict. Conflict always helps us grow and understand things better, right? If we didn't have a situation in which chaos or conflict occurred, we would never have anything come into place, and we wouldn't have resolutions, we wouldn't come up with different things. Things happen through incidents that we would never have thought would help us out, right? I mean, like for instance, had to be a mistake in the identification of how to make goo or whatever the case may be. It was a flop of something else that they were making. So conflict always has to come into place, right? I mean, back to Ben Franklin when the apple hit his head, right?
Chocolate chip cookies. There's supposed to be chocolate cookies. There's
Yes.
some milk, right?
So, I loved it. Excellent job. You guys have a great evening, and I will see you next class time. Pat yourself on the back.
Yay, good job everyone, good job, high five.
Finish all our projects.
All right.
Thank you.